Alright guys, we're doing more fantasy baseball content. We're moving on to breakout and sleeper hitters. Spotting a hitter breakout is a lot different than spotting a pitcher breakout, which was the last video I made in my channel. You can check the link for that in the description. But first, before we get going, again, I want to thank you guys all for supporting the channel. The goal after the last video was 2,000 subscribers. At the time of recording this, we're really close to that. We're right there. So I'm going to pretend we're going to blow right through it. And the new goal is 2,500 subscribers. And we even want to get to that before opening day. If you guys like what you're watching, please go down there, subscribe, click that big red button. I know a lot of you guys watching are not subscribed. We'd really love to have you here. Also, drop a like on the video. Finding a breakout hitter is a lot different than finding a breakout pitcher because with hitters, you have to just look for tools. Guys' general ability doesn't change that much during their major league career. They don't really get more athletic. They don't really get more powerful. The only things that can change are changes really in their plate discipline, which you'll see a lot in this list. But for pitchers, a lot of things can change along the way. Things like a pitch mix change, a sequencing change. They can learn a new pitch. They can start throwing a little bit harder. And all of those things can happen either year to year, month to month, even sometimes start to start. So it makes them much more variable, where hitters are kind of much more contained and controlled. Also, more so with hitters than pitchers, safety often wins out. With pitchers, you want to take your shots. There's a lot more chaos that happens with an end of the season pitching ranking compared to a beginning of the season pitching ranking. With hitters, though, you really want to build up a nice, safe, and sturdy foundation. But that right there is why identifying hitting breakouts carries more weight and can change your season a lot more. Spotting that guy or two guys or three guys who elevate themselves 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 rounds past their ADP, that turns your team into a true championship contender off the bat and will give you a huge advantage over your league mates. But all right, now let's get into it. My first hitter breakout is O'Neal Cruz. If you guys have been here on this channel, you saw how highly I ranked Cruz on my shortstop rankings and my outfield rankings, and I will not stop banging this drum. There just aren't a lot of players like O'Neal Cruz who come around who have these kinds of physical tools. It's also kind of funny to put Cruz on this list because what he did last year might constitute as a breakout. I mean, he had 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 75 run score, 75 RBIs, a 260 batting average. That's a really good season. That's also a really good season for a guy like O'Neal Cruz who took a lot of steps to get here and become a true difference maker at the major league level. But he is on this list because I think there's another big step that O'Neal Cruz will take forward this season. He was able to improve so much of the plate last year because one, he was healthy after that annoying broken ankle he sustained early in the 2023 season. But secondly, because he became much more aggressive at the plate. He was swinging more often and much better identifying pitches in the strike zone. In general, he was swinging more often. That did push his chase rate up a little bit, but that's a good trade-off for a guy like O'Neal Cruz, who is so powerful to the point where every single time he puts his bat on the ball, there's a good chance something good will happen. And truthfully, O'Neal Cruz might have the best pure power in the league. Again, if you guys have been watching my videos, I've given this spiel already, but it's so nutty, I have to give it again. Last year in Major League Baseball, O'Neal Cruz hit the 4 hardest balls of anybody in the league. He also hit 8 of the 11 hardest balls. And on top of that, 15 of the 30 hardest balls. Overall, he had 24 batted balls that were hit harder than 115 miles an hour. The next closest player only had 17. He also hit 4 home runs that traveled further than 450 feet. And the only other guys who did that more often were Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, who each hit 50 home runs compared to O'Neal Cruz's 20. There is so much power in this bat, and all that has to happen for him to access that power is another bit of an increase in his contact rate, just like he did last year. And I really think that's possible. Seeing players improve makes me think they can keep improving. It's clear they're putting the work in that facet in their game. And if they keep working at that, that's how you keep improving. The fact that O'Neal Cruz has been focused on his contact rate, the fact that the Pirates player development people have been focused on O'Neal Cruz's contact rate, the fact that it's so obvious that if O'Neal Cruz improves his contact rate, he elevates himself as a player and becomes a first-round value in fantasy baseball, possibly an MVP candidate. It seems that everyone's on board that this is how we get the best version of O'Neal Cruz. Also a big deal for Cruz's fantasy value. He's become a much more willing and confident base stealer of late. He only attempted 8 stolen bases before the All-Star break last season, but he attempted 15 after the All-Star break in just 2.5 months of play and was a perfect 15 for 15 on those stolen bases. He's also attempted 7 more stolen bases this spring, telling me that he's ready to run this season. Again, that stolen base rate climbs, that contact rate climbs. He still has the nutty power. The Pirates play a little bit better, maybe more runs, more RBIs for him. We're looking at a 35 to 40 homer season with something like 30 to 35 stolen bases, a 270 to 280 average, and maybe 90 each of runs and RBIs, possibly even sneaking into 100, depending on where he winds up in the batting order. That's an MVP candidate. That's someone who's a first-round pick next season in fantasy. That's why O'Neal Cruz is first on the breakout list. Next up on the breakout list is James Wood, another freak of nature. This guy is like an alien who was sent down just to play baseball. He's 6'7", he has plus speed, he has some of the best power in the league, and he rarely chases pitches out of the strike zone. That is such an unbelievably elite foundation for a baseball player to begin with. And funny enough, a very similar one that O'Neal Cruz has. I think I have a type here. But Wood came up last season at 21 years old and was shockingly comfortable in his first go-around with the Nationals. He had 9 home runs, 14 stolen bases, and an 800 OPS in about a half season of play, which is incredible for a rookie. rookie, especially one that young. But the craziest thing about James Wood, how he was so good last year and why I think he has so much potential going into this year, someone who could be legitimately a dark horse MVP candidate and again, a possible first round pick in fantasy drafts next season, is because he was able to be that productive as a rookie and he almost never pulled the baseball. Truthfully, he did not pull a fly ball his rookie season until his 42nd game. He took 177 plate appearances and saw 700 pitches before he pulled his first fly ball, and that first pulled fly ball traveled 420 feet deep into the right field stands. From that point to the rest of the season, his pull percentage actually climbed up to about league average, but a lot of those pulled balls in play did wind up being on the ground. He still has not been able to marry the whole pull the ball in the air thing that you really want from someone with this much natural power. And he has that much natural power. His max exit velocity was up there with some of the best players in the league. His bat speed was up there with some of the best players in the league. In terms of physical tools, James Wood has all of them. And that's why we're only scratching the surface of what he can possibly do. If he learns how to pull fly balls, this could be a possible 50 homer player at some point in his career. I don't say that lightly. And something really nice, he already has 4 home runs in just under 50 plate appearances this spring. With those home runs, there has been an uptick in both his fly ball rate and his pull rate. Now, a lot of those fly balls haven't exactly been pulled fly balls, but his natural power is so nutty that he can hit opposite field home runs with the best of them. It's just about pulling enough of them so he can elevate himself from like a 15, 20, 22 homer guy to a 30, 35 homer guy. That will make him the breakout that I envision. James Wood's value right now in fantasy drafts also kind of reminds me of what we thought of Elly De La Cruz last year. Elly got the bump because he was expected to steal many more bases, but his profile was really being nitpicked a lot for someone who was a monster, who had some of the best physical tools in the entire game. That's what I feel about James Wood right now. And would you look at that? After the 2024 season, Elly De La Cruz turned himself into a bona fide first round asset in fantasy baseball and someone who looks like an MVP candidate. I think that's what James Wood does this season, and that's why he's on this list. Next up, another super prospect. It's Jackson Holliday. I just feel like there's a switch that Jackson Holliday can flip and he immediately becomes a monster. Someone who in next year's fantasy drafts becomes like a top 4 or 5 round player, if not higher than that. His counting stats were really bad as a rookie last year, and I mean really bad. His batting average started with a 1, his OPS started with a 5, but he still did a lot of stuff under the hood that makes me think there's a really, really good player here in Jackson Holliday, and one that we could see sooner rather than later. First off, he had a tremendous hard hit rate. That tells me there's a lot more raw power in there that meets the eye. Second, he's very, very fast. He's the 95th percentile in sprint speed, has shown he was a willing base stealer, and has already swiped 5 bags in 14 spring games, which tells me that could be something that's a bigger part of his game this season. Another big thing for Holliday and young players in general, that he made really good swing decisions. Again, despite these horrible surface stats. He was really good at attacking pitches in the strike zone, especially in the heart of the zone. He was good at laying off pitches outside of it. The only problem with Holliday and why he couldn't access a lot of this raw ability that he has and why his stats were so bad, that he just swung and missed a lot. Way more than he ever did as a minor leaguer. Which makes me think that maybe Jackson Holliday was selling out for power. That was the thing he really wanted to show he had at the major league level as a 20-year-old. So far in spring training, it's a little bit of signal. It's something to watch. I don't love spring training stats, but there's some things like these per pitch stats and also strikeout and walk rates and some of the bad ball stuff like I talked about with James Wood that can matter. And so far, Jackson Holliday is striking out much less frequently than he did last season. The reason for that though is he's swinging much more often. So maybe Holliday's still looking for his happy medium with pitch selection, but it's cool to see that he is attacking and jumping on pitchers that likely are older than him in spring training already. Because this is still a very, very good foundation for someone who just turned 21 years old. It's an amazing place to start. He has the prospect pedigree. He was #1 overall prospect in baseball. It's all here for Jackson Holliday. Another big reason why it's here for Jackson Holliday and why he's so high in this list is because there's still a lot of unknown around Gunnar Henderson's intercostal little oblique injury and the fact that he might not be ready for opening day. The Orioles have showed a willingness to play Jackson Holliday at shortstop in the spring and even sometimes hit him high in the order. So if he's the opening day shortstop, that's really good for his fantasy value. If he plays well enough and Gunnar Henderson comes back, he very easily slides over the second base with Jordan Westburg moving to third base and Ramon Urias moving to the bench. Again, it's all in front of Jackson Holliday. If he goes out and takes it, he will get it. Next up, another high draft pick, another high-end prospect. Again, guys, when you get the hitter breakouts, you want to look for tools. This one is Dylan Cruz. With Cruz, there is this prevailing thought in my mind that maybe it doesn't happen this season. He did only play a month as a rookie and his surface level stats were pretty bad, just had a 640 OPS. But he did so many things well under the hood, that makes me think the breakout could happen sooner rather than later. His hard hit rate was in the top third of the league, around guys like Kyle Tucker, Carlos Correa, and Jackson Chourio. He also made pretty good swing decisions, especially as a rookie. He didn't chase a ton, he attacked the right pitches in the strike zone, and when he attacked those pitches in the strike zone, he made tons of contact on them. And as we just said with the hard hit rate, the contact was generally good. He was also able to lift the ball a decent amount, something that's often a struggle for young players, and when he lifted the ball, he was able to pull it a decent amount. Again, good things for Dylan Cruz here. What really happened for him is he just got legitimately unlucky on his balls in play. Defenders made good plays, outfielders were positioned well. I really think that if all things come back to level, if things even out, the batting average goes up a lot to the 260, 270 range, and the home runs climb in a full season somewhere near 20. Then on top of that, he's literally one of the fastest players in the league with sprint speed in the 93rd percentile, and in 31 games as a rookie, he was 12 for 15 stolen bases. So if we're looking at a guy that can have 20 home runs and 40 stolen bases this year, and he'll be in the lineup all the time because he's such a good defensive outfielder, that's a bona fide breakout for me, and something that I think has a good chance of happening. Again, maybe it's not this year, but there's so much good here with this Dylan Cruz profile that I do like him a lot going into this season. Same with the next guy, Doesn't have the same prospect pedigree as this last list, doesn't have the same acumen, but it's Joey Ortiz, who is just a really good ball player. He was the centerpiece in the Corbin Burnes trade from the Brewers to the Orioles last offseason, and he just played nearly a full season with the Brewers and was just fine, a middling baseball player, someone that, you know this in real life, but wasn't really that relevant for fantasy. But he does so many things well. I think there's another huge gear or 2 levels he can possibly jump up. He was in the 76th percentile in bat speed last year. He swings really hard, which is a big deal for power. And so far this spring, he's even been swinging a tick harder than he did last year, showing me there's more untapped power potential in this bat. Also, his max exit velocity was in the 77th percentile. So there's legitimate power here despite the poor power output last season when he only hit about 10 home runs. He takes his walks, he doesn't strike out very often, he makes lots of contact, and also a big deal for his fantasy value, keeping him in the lineup and giving him a good spot this year. He's an incredible defensive player. He has a good arm, and he was so good defensively at third base last year, the Brewers are comfortable moving him to shortstop this season to replace Willy Adames. That's a guy who they value very highly internally, something that we really love for these breakout lists. He's also very fast, so we have someone who makes a lot of contact, has a lot of raw power, is a plus defender, and has plus speed. It's a really good baseball player, and someone who's going to be in the lineup every single day. And after a week or two, he'll be eligible at both shortstop and third base, which is a great foundation for fantasy. So then it's really just about him accessing that raw power. And I think for Ortiz, it's a bit of a pitch selection issue. It's similar to what I talked about with Holiday, finding that happy medium between passivity and aggressiveness. He makes a lot of contact, but the quality of the contact isn't that good overall. And that's because he has a very poor squared up rate. He's not really good at actually literally getting that barrel on the baseball, despite swinging hard and making hard contact when he connects. Also, again, I mentioned passivity before. His 39% swing rate was on the low end of the entire league. But when he does swing, he makes tons of contact. His zone contact rate was near the top of the league. So it's a very obscure profile right now between swinging, not swinging, finding power, and not finding power. But if this can all coalesce, if this can find a happy medium, Joey Ortiz becomes a guy who can be 20-25 homers, 15-20 steals, 270 average, and be a true mainstay, like a 5-win player in the middle of the Brewers lineup. There is a lot of pieces here that if they fuse together in the right way, it becomes very exciting very quickly. All right, now moving on. This is the tools pick. It's Jordan Walker. I don't know why some people in the world have quit on this guy. He debuted 2 years ago as a 20-year-old, had a 116 WRC+, a 340 on-base percentage, a 790 OPS, hit the ball 114 miles an hour, which was near the top of the league in max exit velocity, and made pretty good swing decisions on the way. He did chase out of the strike zone a little bit too often, but he identified the right pitches in the zone to take his hacks at, and he did that. And again, this was all as a 20-year-old while he was learning a new position, moving from the infield to the outfield on the fly, and he did all that as a 20-year-old. That kind of set him up to be this next superstar going into drafts last season, and his season was a complete disaster. It was so bad that the Cardinals wind up demoting him after 67 plate appearances when they needed to shake up their roster. But I think that was a huge mistake looking back, especially when this is kind of a weird thing. When he was demoted last year, he hadn't yet hit a home run. He really wasn't connecting at all. He was chasing too many pitches. The whole thing looked like a mess. But before he got demoted, he made 2 outs that were hit at least 398 feet in the air. If he just hit that ball in a different ballpark, or if he would have pulled it a little bit more than he did, maybe the whole season's different. Maybe he gets back on the horse. Maybe he figures out a way. But instead, he got sent down. He struggled. He came back up. He struggled. The whole season was terrible. Just flush it down the toilet. Besides for the fact that he did hit the ball 115.5 miles an hour when he came back up in September. He was one of only 26 players in the entire league to do that last year. Again, telling us the raw power is still there, legit, and special. And it is special. Last year, he had top 5 bat speed in the league. It's in there for Jordan Walker. We just have to get it out. He's still only 22 years old. He still has to figure out how to pull the ball more. He still has to figure out how to lift the ball more. He might still have to figure out how to play the outfield, depending on what happens to Nolan Arenado this season. But we're looking for tools right now. Tools, and Walker has some of the best tools in the league. I will say, though, as a quick aside, it looks like he might still be a little discombobulated. He's striking out nearly half of his at-bats this spring. Not a good thing. We're still going to see what we have with Jordan Walker this season. He's a breakout pick. Next up is Nolan Shanuel, first baseman on the Angels. Probably the least toolsy guy in this list. Probably the strangest guy in this list in general, but I really believe there is something here. First off, because it's truly amazing that Shanuel had fewer than 100 minor league plate appearances, but in his major league career has a 350 on-base percentage and overall has been an above average hitter based on WRC+. That's incredible for a guy that basically didn't play in the minor leagues. But all this comes with a caveat that he might have the least power in baseball. He has 2nd percentile bat speed. 2nd percentile. He swings one of the slowest bats in Major League Baseball. Shocking. And has never hit the ball harder than 106 miles an hour. Never. Pitchers have hit balls harder than 106 miles an hour. Luis Arraez has hit the ball harder than 106 miles an hour. Steven Kwan has hit the ball harder than 106 miles an hour. 106 mile an hour max exit velocity is so far away from being good, it's almost laughable. Last season, Shanuel's 362 slugging percentage was nearly the same as Bryson Stott. One of the least powerful seasons I've ever seen in this modern era of baseball. But he still does so many things well. Before I mentioned the 350 career on base percentage, he also for his major league career has nearly as many walks as strikeouts. In terms of eye here and identifying pitches where they are and when to swing at them, he is very good, especially for a guy again, that didn't play minor league baseball. The Angels just said, go out, learn how to do it against the major leaguers, give it a shot. And it's kind of working. And with that, he doesn't chase. He makes tons of contact. It's not great contact, but he does find a way to make tons of contact. And the rare times he is able to lift the ball, he does pull it a decent amount. And his 13 home runs and 10 stolen bases last season are not nothing. That is something. That's a good spot to start. If we ever see a small uptick in his power, if he ever trades some of this contact rate for some power while maintaining his eye, this is an easy 20 home run guy. And someone I can very much see sniffing a 300 batting average like a 370 on base. Easily. That would be an amazing baseball player and someone that's very valuable as a first baseman. It also doesn't feel like nothing that already this spring he's had 4 batted balls over 100 miles an hour. For most players, that is nothing. That's not exactly a benchmark. But Shanuel only did that 33 times all of last season. So seeing him do it 4 times in a few weeks, that catches my attention. Especially because the hardest ball he's hit this spring at 104 miles an hour would have been the 3rd hardest hit ball he had all of last season. Again, it's an embarrassing lack of power. But there is something here. There is a push and pull. Maybe it's just the fact that Shanuel got called up so quickly and he's kind of had this I want to make contact with everything approach and take my walks as a way of keeping his head above water. Now that he's become a consistent, stable, and sturdy major leaguer, maybe there's an adjustment, maybe power comes, maybe he becomes this 22 homer, 300 batting average guy, which would be a sensational player. Next up, we have Cardinals catcher Ivan Herrera, who is finally getting his chance at the full-time catcher this year, and I'm really excited for him. He already had a full season of AAA baseball under his belt and was kind of the incumbent for Yadier Molina. But then the Cardinals surprisingly signed Wilson Contreras and kept Herrera in AAA for 3 full seasons. Now with Contreras moving to first base full-time, this is Herrera's job, and he has a chance to be special. He got his first real shot to be an everyday player at the major league level last season when Contreras got hurt, and he was really good. It shockingly flew under the radar. In 72 games, he had 300 batting average and 800 OPS with 5 homers and 5 stolen bases. 5 homers aren't that good in half a season, but 300 batting average, 800 OPS, and 5 steals from a catcher. He also had 12 doubles. Tell me there is some more power there. His underlying power metrics were quite good as well. He had 112 mile an hour max exit velocity. He had plus bat speed. His hard hit rate was better than the league average. This someone has enough raw power here to easily get to 20 homers in a full season. He also didn't strike out very much. He didn't chase very much. He was able to take his walks. The big key for Ivan Herrera to access this raw power and take the big step forward that I expect him to take is to begin pulling his fly balls. That's the one area he really couldn't access, and why again, it looked like there was good raw power there under the hood in his metrics, but he wasn't able to put that in games in actuality. At worst, he's way better than where he's being drafted right now as like the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th catcher in your fantasy leagues. See someone I can easily see sneaking into the top 7, being a 20 homer, 30 double, 10 stolen base guy with a 280 average and around 800 OPS in a full season. For a catcher, that's all-star level stuff. The next guy on the list is Matt Wallner, outfielder on the Twins. Truthfully, Wallner might have some of the best raw power in the entire league. He had the 6th fastest bat speed last year in the same range of guys like Aaron Judge, O'Neal Cruz, and Ronald Acuna Jr. He had the 13th highest hard hit rate and a 116.8 max exit velocity. There were only 11 players who hit the ball harder than that last season. Bottom line with Matt Wallner, he hammers the ball. He hammers it in the air, which is a really big step for young power hitters. He's never really been given a full-time job at the major league level, but when he does get to play, he mashes. He puts this raw power into game action and produces. Last season, in just 75 games, he had 13 homers and nearly 900 OPS. That's an elite power hitter right there. And heading into the season, he is set to be the Twins starting right fielder. The only caveat Wallner is, as a left-handed batter, he's not going to play very much against lefties. That does diminish his fantasy ceiling a good bit. But the other problem with Wallner, and why he hasn't exactly broken out yet, why he's on this list, he's never made enough contact at the major league level to really tie this whole skill set together and turn him into the elite power hitter I think he can be. He has a career 35% strikeout rate, one of the highest swing strike rates in the entire league, and one of the lowest zone contact rates in the entire league. That's why, again, he really pops in all those per contact power metrics, but if you go per swing or per at bat, he really falls down the list, and that's kind of the thing holding him back. Nevertheless, he has a shot to play every day this season, which is more than we ever could have said for Wallner in the past, and right field's a good spot for him because he has a cannon for an arm. Physically, the guy is astounding, and he has a chance to take this job and run with it. The Twins are finally going to give him a chance to kind of earn that spot. We also love to see that he's leading all players in spring training with 6 home runs. Again, spring training stats will never be the be-all and end-all, but I'd rather a player I like be good in spring training than bad in spring training, so Wallner's on this list. Now, lastly, a very fun pick here. Another guy who hits the ball incredibly hard. It's Ben Rice of the Yankees. A big thing for Rice is that he's now going to be the Yankees' opening day designated hitter with Giancarlo Stanton to the IL with 2 tennis elbows, one of the craziest injuries we've seen in baseball in a long time. But Rice has a real chance to run with this job because, again, he has freaky natural power. His stat line last year looked really bad with a 613 OPS and about 200 plate appearances, but truthfully, he might have been the most unlucky hitter in the entire league when you consider his plate discipline and his quality of contact. Literally, by Baseball Savant's expected WOBA on contact, he was literally the most unlucky player in the league. Literally. And that's because, again, he smoked the baseball with one of the highest barrel rates in the entire league. Also, very importantly with Rice, he had tremendous plate discipline for a rookie. An older rookie, but still a rookie. He swung at the right pitches in the strike zone. He rarely chased pitches out of it. And he pulled most of his fly balls. He had a solid contact rate, all things considered. And he took his walks. On top of that, something I really like out of Ben Rice, shows me he's been putting in the work this offseason. So far this spring, he has hit the 6 hardest balls of his entire major league career. Last year, his max exit velocity was 110.8 miles an hour. He has hit 6 balls harder than that so far this spring, maxing out at 113.8 miles an hour. And this has also come with a slight increase for Ben Rice in his bat speed compared to last season. That tells me his power breakout is real, and who doesn't want a left-handed batter in Yankee Stadium, right? Especially one with power who's going to be hitting in a really good lineup. Ben Rice to me is someone that you can get on your team for basically nothing early in the season, and if he's able to take that DH job, if Paul Goldschmidt stumbles and Ben Rice can get some first base reps, we're looking at some guy who could be a monster right off the bat. Someone who could really compete for 30 home runs, who's literally going for free in drafts. But all right, guys, that's all we got. Those are my 10 hitter breakouts. We're going to have a few more videos coming out before the season begins. We're definitely going to have a bowl prediction Wednesday. I'm going to figure out another video to do in between this and the bowl predictions, but if you guys have any recommendations for me, any suggestions, please drop in the comments. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Drop a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel. We keep growing here. It's a lot of fun, and I especially appreciate all of you guys being here with me. So thank you very much.